Afghanistan and the deaths of half a dozen Americans amid a renewed Taliban offensive. It happened near Bagram Airfield outside Kabul when a suicide bomber drove a motorcycle into a joint U.S. Afghan foot patrol. The Bagram attack was even worse than this one last August, when 3 American security guards died in a suicide attack in Kabul. And it came just 3 days after Secretary of Defense Ash Carter was in Afghanistan.
We have made gains that will put Afghanistan on a better path. More work lies ahead. The national security of both of our nations remains very much at stake. But we will succeed. The Taliban's advances in some parts of the country, even if only temporary, underscore that this is a tough fight, and it's far from over.
Indeed, Taliban fighters are pressing the Afghan army hard across the country. In late September, the militants managed a 3-day takeover of Kunduz, a provincial capital in the north. And now government forces are falling back in Helmand Province in the south. Officials there say the Taliban seized the strategically important Sangan district last night. More than 90 Afghan soldiers were killed in Helmand in 2 days of fighting, but some at least still sounded defiant.
The operation is going on by Afghan security forces in this area. The enemies cannot defeat us. We have a strong resolve to defeat them and defend our country, Afghanistan.
And they will have American help for a while longer. 2 months ago, President Obama reversed course and announced that some 5,500 U.S. troops will stay in Afghanistan beyond 2016. Late today, Defense Secretary Carter said the Bagram attack is a, quote, painful reminder of the dangers U.S. troops face in Afghanistan. And in a related development, the UN Security Council voted unanimously today to extend sanctions against the Taliban for 18 more months. For more on the situation in Afghanistan, we turn now to freelance journalist Sune Engel Rasmussen in Kabul. I spoke with him a short while ago. Thanks very much for joining us. How did this suicide bomber get close enough to these American troops to kill them? What happened?
Well, the American troops were carrying out a patrol on foot close to Bagram with a unit of Afghan National Police. As they were walking, this suicide bomber drove up to them on a motorbike laden with explosives and then rammed into them and detonated himself. That killed 6 American soldiers, is what we're hearing, and injured another 3 and injured 3 Afghan police. So it didn't seem that difficult for him to get close to the soldiers, apparently because they were walking on foot.
Is it common for U.S., for other NATO troops to be so vulnerable that way, so close to this big air base?
Well, I don't know the details of how vulnerable they were, but I know they are conducting patrols, not just U.S. soldiers, but also soldiers from other nations around Bagram. And this is something they've been doing for a long time, and probably continue doing as part of their train, advise, and assist mission, where they go out with Afghans and assist them on the ground.
Well, we know that there are something like 9,800 U.S. troops in Afghanistan right now. What is their mission right now? Is it to defend? Is it to go after the Taliban? How would you describe it?
Well, NATO and U.S. call it a train, advise, and assist mission. So broadly speaking, that means training the Afghan security forces to take over security themselves. Advising is often also on the ground, for example, with Afghan special forces when they try to retake districts in, for example, southern Helmand Province or in Kunduz, which fell for, a couple of months ago. And then there's the assist part, which is a little more difficult to define exactly what that is. But that is, for example, fighting on the ground alongside Afghan troops. Now, the U.S. military says they don't conduct their own operations, but they are assisting the Afghans. They're also carrying out airstrikes. They are also fighting a counter-terrorism mission, as they say here. Now, that sometimes veers into what the rest of us might define as a counterinsurgency, where they actually go out and do patrols in villages that they think are influenced, or where there's a terrorism presence.
I ask because I think Americans don't hear as much about what's going on in Afghanistan. But you mentioned Helmand Province in the south. The Taliban's putting up quite a serious fight there, aren't they?
They are, and they have been doing for quite a while now. The Taliban launched what they call a spring fighting season in the spring, but it's been going pretty much continually since then for almost a year now. Sangin has been contested for a couple of years actually, but it hasn't been as bad as we've seen over the past 48 hours now. Lashkar, the provincial capital in Helmand, looks seriously threatened now, as it hasn't done at any point actually during the war. The Taliban have managed to take a lot of districts surrounding the capital, and that's also why we've seen a recent arrival of both U.S. and U.K. special forces in Helmand to help out the Afghans secure the province. Eventually, the Afghans will have to take control of security themselves, but both the regular Afghan forces, but also the Afghan special forces, which are actually quite competent in fighting, are stretched thin in the province as it looks now.
Well, very tough, especially as we get so close to Christmas. Sune Engel Rasmussen, we thank you.
You're welcome.